Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this narration of the web series The Princess and the Human. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 40, Solid Evidence. 23rd day after my arrival. Dear Diary. I finally managed to calm down a bit. It has now been 2 days since I visited the Taistri ambassador. They are an interesting species, completely different from the Veneri. They look a bit like bipedal cats with fish scales instead of fur, and no cat ears. Theirs are on the side and are pretty big. A bit like bat ears. Also, interesting how tall the ambassador was. The servants were all around the size of an adult man, a human man, but the ambassador was as tall as the princess. I'm still not sure if they did it, but the ambassador definitely acted suspiciously. There was also this one servant who was constantly loitering around. I had a really strange feeling about him. I didn't find anything concrete, to be fair. In hindsight, I'm not really sure what I was looking for. I was so angry, Scratch that. Maybe I should have planned this better. But it wasn't pointless. My suspicion of her was definitely grown. Once the guard captain comes back, I'll have to tell him about her. Maybe he can find something out. Though, thanks to the mobility crap, she's basically untouchable until there is a damning evidence against her. That includes interrogating her. Until the princess wakes up, I'm more or less the only one who can talk to her without things getting ugly. Stupid politics. Assuming she really is the one behind this, in an ideal world, my visit made her panic, and she will try something reckless. But I doubt she's that stupid. Still, I better tell the guards to be on the lookout, as well as the captain once he comes back. Once she got called in, Gathé opened the door and entered Nadine's room. After her, 2 maids brought in an assortment of food before leaving again with a bow. The small alien sitting on the pile of pillows on a chair that allowed her to reach the desk, seemingly writing something again. Is she better, considering you're here? She asked, hopping down to the ground. Yes, Gathé confirmed. Her readings are all stable, and I couldn't detect any noteworthy traces of calcium. It has all been flushed out. The damage done to her body will take time to heal, but there should be nothing to worsen her condition. I hooked her up to many control monitors that could warn me in the slightest anomaly. The only thing left for her is to wake up and then rest. She made a pause before adding, You really saved her life that night. You can be proud of that. Nadine closed her eyes and took a deep breath. No, not before I bring this matter to a close. But speaking of resting, shouldn't you do that too? I have. I am able to catch up on my missed sleep, so my body has rested enough. This right here is actually a good way for me to get my head free. That made Nadine chuckle. You sure love research, huh, Doc? Well, I'm the first person in the Alliance to examine a foreign sapient species and first ones who knows how many generations. She shrugged, chiming in on the alien's delight. Both kept enjoying the moment a bit longer, before Nadine let out a long, melancholic sigh. You know, Claire would have loved meeting you. Claire? Gathé repeated, sure that she hadn't butchered the name. That didn't sound like it belonged to a Veneri. Another human, maybe. If so, as far as she could recall, this was the first time Nadine had mentioned any person by name. Claire Archambault. She was a biochemist from Belgium and is also part of the colony program. She's the youngest amongst the adults in our group, so we talked quite a bit. Seemingly remembering something, Nadine started to laugh. She once missed an important assignment because she accidentally discovered something during the test and spent all her time with that instead. Or was almost kicked out of the program for it. Seriously. Give her a microscope and some biomass, and won't see her again for the day. She shook her head, smiling. Fair bit of warning, though. If she isn't immersed in her research, she's more hyper than a squirrel on cocaine. Still, you have to meet her if we ever... The small alien's gaze fell as the words died in her mouth. I'm sure they are fine, Gathé tried to comfort her. Some other Alliance members may have found them already. Word just travels slowly beyond the hyperlanes. Let's, talk about something else, okay? Gathé wanted to say something in return, but she realized her words wouldn't reach Nadine at the moment. So instead, she turned to the food assortment and handed her 2 small containers. Here's the new recipe you asked for. This one is with Tycro and that one without. That at least brought her smile back. I wouldn't exactly call a smoothie a recipe. It's actually strange that you guys never got the idea. But I still hope that these fruits work together. It would be nice to have something good and easy, especially when I'm training, she explained as she took a sip, then put the container away immediately. It's liquefied, it's mixed into other stuff, and it still tastes like dry flour. What is wrong with that stupid tuber? This thing screams nutrients. There has to be a way to make it edible. Slightly frustrated, she took a big gulp from one of the other ones, only to then stop and make a confused face. That one doesn't taste like I thought it would. Is that really just the fruits I listed? I didn't make it, but it should be. So both are failures. Nadine shook her head. Wouldn't exactly call it a failure, she took another gulp. There is an aftertaste I can't really assign to any of the fruits I've tried. Maybe some things in there react weirdly. She drank some more. The fruity flavor is too strong. Can't really discern it. I feel like I know this taste from somewhere. I can't really put my finger on it. She thought a bit, but seemingly not reaching a conclusion, she emptied the rest in one go. Still, wasn't bad, so no worries. Anyways, is there something else that's new? One after another, Cathay went with her through the meals the staff had prepared this time. Right before the assassination attempt on the princess, Nadine had given a couple new suggestions, so there were indeed some new things that she hadn't tried yet. By now, they had figured out a decent amount of food the small alien could consume. Whether it was what she needed to consume was a different topic. Occasionally, Nadine recognized the names of some of the nutrients, but this simply wasn't her field of expertise. Could she maybe feel that her body was missing something, and because of that was so obsessed with the Tycro? Cathay explained more about each meal while Nadine quietly listened, though sometimes she seemed to giggle for no apparent reason. Some time passed until they had finally gone through everything. Finishing a meal, Nadine got up, but she somehow lost her balance and tumbled a bit to the side before getting a hold of the wall. She giggled again. "Are you all right?" the doctor asked, surprised. Nadine had always shown an impressive balance of her body, so this was unusual. Yeah, I'm fine." And that was about the last kind of response that she had expected. "Are you sure? Because you don't sound fine."
Come on. You can be a schlegler when I'm done for the Columbus,
she grumbled. What? Was her translator glitching out? But it had worked fine just now. It had to be the translator, though. Physical speech impairment wouldn't get through the translator, so something had to be wrong either with the device or with her brain. Oh no. "Nadine, look at me."
Why? Hey, Josetta.
What? Is she hallucinating now? "Nadine, I think something is wrong with your food. Come on, we need to get to my office." Nadine tried to say something else, but this time it was completely unintelligible. She got away from the wall and lost her balance again, crashing into the food trays and breaking it in the process. She didn't get up afterwards, but simply lay in the wreckage. "Nadine! Nadine!" No response. Cathay hurriedly ran out into the hallway. "Guards!" she screamed. "Guards! We need help!" Quickly, 3 of them answered the call.
"What happened, milady?"
"I don't know. I think Nadine ingested something harmful to her. You need to get her to my office, quick."
"How?"
"I don't know. Get creative." With that, she left the guards behind and rushed over to the other side of the palace, hoping that she could already do something before they arrived. Running past the princess, who was still lying peacefully in her bed, she activated the blood testing machine. All her research regarding Nadine so far only encompassed day-to-day things, so she had no idea what symptoms she showed to what. Therefore, her only hope was this apparatus. Grabbing a syringe, she ran back. The guards, now 6 in total, had managed to get Nadine onto an oversized spreadsheet and, rather than carrying her, dragged the package over the floor like a heavy sack. Not exactly dignified, but that wasn't something that they could care about now. Cathay quickly drew a blood sample, hoping the machine would be done by the time they reached the office, and rushed back. She put a drop in each of the testing tubes, every tig feeling like an entire inver. The machine didn't have human blood registered in its system, so it didn't know what results to ignore. That only served to make the process even more tedious. As irrelevant compound after irrelevant compound popped up on the screen, calcium, potassium, copper, magnesium, all things that would be concerning in other species, but were irrelevant now. She had already analyzed the alien's blood once. She just needed the machine to show something that hadn't been there before. Finally, just as the guard managed to drag Nadine in, the test showed a relevant result, and it was one that let out all the strength in Cathay's body. All the haste she had felt until now was gone, and left was only despair. "What now, Doc?" one of the guards asked. It almost hurt the doctor to move her mouth. "Nothing." "Nothing? What do you mean, nothing?"
There is nothing I can do. I can't help her."
Oh!
Hearing a groan, Cathay jumped to her feet. It was the early morning, and the doctor had skipped another night, unable to stop Nadine from succumbing to the poison. All she could do was attempt to keep her stable and hope for a miracle, and somehow one had come. While her body had gotten hot for a while, her breath and pulse had quickly become calm and steady. No further reactions to the toxin had shown themselves. She was just lying on a bedsheet on the floor, peacefully. The only way that Cathay could explain this was that whoever had done the deed underestimated her body mass and mixed too little food. It was probably the weird taste that she had noticed. But who had done it? When? And how? Unfortunately, things were far from good. It was still all but guaranteed that she had suffered permanent neural damage. It was probably especially bad for her since her brain had such a high and fast computing power. Wherever the damage would manifest exactly, she would definitely have to live with severe impairments from now on.
What? Nadine, who were the first ones you're awake?
Loud!
Sorry, what did you say?
Could you talk not so loud, please? And maybe turn off the light. Fuck. My head is killing me. What happened?
She talked much slower than before. Cathay nodded and followed her requests before taking notes. She quickly needed to assess all long-term symptoms. The headache would probably be the least of them.
Nadine, I need you to stay calm. This will probably come as a shock, but someone tried to poison you.
She sounded more confused than shocked.
Poison? With what? With alcohol?
The doctor was stumped. Despite her condition, and just from the symptoms, she was able to discern the toxin.
Yes, ethanol to be exact.
Oh, boy. Do I have a story for you once this hangover is gone?
With that, Nadine rolled to the side and closed her eyes again. How was she so calm? Doctor? A voice called for her from the destroyed door. Turning her head, she noticed two guards as well as the guard captain. She signed for them to be quiet before stepping out into the hallway.
I see you're back, Captain.
She greeted him once she was sure that they were far enough as to not disturb Nadine.
How did your investigation go?
I take it that you know that suicide of the culprit was likely staged.
Yes, Nadine told me.
Speaking of, how was she?
To my absolute surprise, alive. But despite her luck, there are still severe long-term consequences to be expected. Which ones exactly, I cannot tell yet. Ethanol is incredibly dangerous.
The captain nodded. I see. When my men told me the name, I asked around. You can't just acquire the stuff normally, right?
Correct. Because it is so potent and there is no known antidote, you need a special research license to purchase it.
But you have such a license, right?
The comment made Cathay stop.
I do? I don't see how that is relevant, though.
It is insofar relevant that I have to ask you to come with me.
It actually took her a while to process what she had just heard and to understand what the captain was hinting at.
You must be joking.
Most certainly not.
Are you? Why would you even think that?
Well, you were one of the few that knew about her theory of the staged suicide. Maybe you wanted to silence her.
Why would I want to? Wait. Are you saying I attempted to assassinate Her Highness? That makes no sense. I was the one who saved her.
She shouted, fuming over his audacity. Maybe you didn't want her to die. Just take her out. I don't know. I mean, our only source that she is fine now and will wake up soon is you, after all. True, I don't know what you would hope to gain from this, but you see, by the time the maid in question was shot, you weren't back to the palace yet, but arrived shortly after, meaning that you could have been in the city. You were the one of the few who knew about Lady Nadine's suspicion. You were the one who gave her the poisoned meal, and despite alerting the guards, you were rather quick in announcing that she was beyond saving.
Yes, because I said there is no known antidote against ethanol. It's a deadly neurotoxin.
She took a breath.
All right, if you say it like that, there's a hint in my direction. I'll give you that much. But that's not nearly enough. I might be a low rank, but I'm still a noble and in service of the Star Palace. You can't accuse me unless you have either Her Highness's order or solid evidence.
That is true.
Then instead of chasing...
She didn't finish her sentence as the captain held the datapad in her face. What she saw made her freeze. It was a bill of delivery for a small shipment of ethanol, ordered with a license.
What do you say? Does this qualify as solid evidence?
End of chapter. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, HenryTheRed, Casper Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.